So those are all the talks that we had. So I know that the workshop's been very talk heavy, but we wanted to really have a lot of introduction to a lot of different concepts, a lot of different experiences, and have your questions included in those. We also wanted to think about what is it that you guys have. So maybe you want to share some of your experiences. So we've said here BYOD, bring your own data. But it was a very short session because we know from past experience, nobody brings their own data. If you did bring your own data, fantastic, then let us know, and we could play around with it now. But we know that people tend not to bring your own data, but how about bring your own experience? So it'd be really nice to hear from some of the people in the audience who we haven't heard from yet, or even those who we have heard from, who've asked questions, if they have any of their own experiences or needs to share, because what we want to do is, this, as I said, this was introductory, not really time in these sort of 2 sessions to go into a lot of practical. So we've demoed and shown you where you can take data and go in and run your own sort of example algorithms or example data cleaning. So we do encourage you to try that out and see where your challenges are, and then come back if you have questions. But we want to know from you, number one, was it useful, but also what's next. So this, as I said, we consider it to be introductory. We put this workshop off for nearly 2 years now because we really wanted to run it face to face with real data, with everybody in the room, and really sort of dive into data harmonization practically. But with COVID only sort of just starting to settle, and it's not actually setting, with travel just starting to begin again, it was just still not feasible. But if you think that you would benefit from a hands-on, bring your own data jamboree, a follow-on workshop of a specific type, a specific focus, then we really want to hear from you now about that. So does anybody want to share some thoughts on that, or to give us some of your experiences of what are the challenges you've been dealing with in data harmonization? So why did you want to attend this in the first place? So I know you've been listening for a while, so this is your chance to wake up and give some feedback and tell us about your experiences. Don't all rush to put your hands up. I just have to pick on people. Leslie.
Sorry, I'm having all kinds of challenges with my Zoom today. But anyway, I just I find all of this very, very valuable. Having kind of gone through different consortia, and sometimes it's like, bigger and bigger consortia, we go through these stages where we do it, but then when you go to say a bigger stage, then you almost have to go back to the beginning in terms of harmonization, right? So what I find particularly valuable, amongst many things that make this whole forum valuable, is being able to talk to each other. And since I do participate in a lot of harmonization, more on for US consortia, talking to people working on harmonization in other parts, because really we are going to have to be going back and doing it again, right? So that we can combine all of the data. So more of just a comment, just because I have had to go back and start all over again, just because not just a matter of a different situation, but a lot of it is, each stage tends to be larger and more data sources, and each one you do kind of have to some degree reinvent the wheel. But when I watch these kinds of things, then it gives me pointers to take back that hopefully then when we do combine all of the data across the globe, my goal is to hopefully make that easier for my little piece of it.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, wouldn't it be lovely if we could harmonize data across the globe? And one of the things actually that GF4GH just thinking about what's one of the projects, and I forgot what the project is called, is, all trying to come up with this minimum data model that everybody must map to. How about you just put your data out there and you say, this is the model I've used, and then somebody else, has to work with that, as long as it's very well described. And that might be more feasible for, the bigger we get, the community gets this one that wants to harmonize data. Maybe you have to switch it away and say, actually, you tell us what you're doing and we'll work with that. But it gets very complicated the more you add.
I think that's a great point. Just getting that information isn't always straightforward, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Catherine.
Hi. I've really enjoyed this workshop as well, and we need to kind of go back and gather all the amazing little pearls of wisdom that we've heard over the last 2 days. And I just wondered if there would be a kind of space for maybe having a kind of work team get together to rehash out something similar to what the Geneva checklist was. Lyndon mentioned that I think in 2010 or 11, there was this kind of phenotype harmonization checklist that was established, but I have a feeling that it needs updating based on all the experiences and knowledge that people have now gleaned over the years. So it'd be great if there was a way to kind of have a hackathon or something to flesh out some key considerations in phenotype harmonization. What areas should you be focusing on? What are the different schemas or ways that you can apply standardization terms and all those things to kind of have a solid guideline for phenotype harmonization?
Yeah, I think that would be great. There are just so many of these now, of these models and standards and ontologies, and I think people are sort of drowning in what's out there. And then still, I think, as Sarah said, actually Peter had mentioned this in his slide, you find all these ontologies, none of the standards, none of them really works, so you create yet another one. We have this explosion, so maybe we do need to go back and coalesce them, bring them back together again, to see what is, what should we use, and then have this checklist. I think that's a great idea, and if people are interested,
harmonize the harmonization efforts.
Yeah. So that's what, that's how this actually started out. Well, on the HRA Binded side, on the CINECA side, we wanted to disseminate how the CINECA harmonization process has worked. But on the HRA Binded side, what Catherine's been running is this literature review that Lyndon presented, is going to see who's done this, and what have they used, what approaches have they used, is there any commonality in their approaches, and so that maybe the output is also the best practices, if that doesn't already exist, although I'm sure that exists somewhere. Because I think it's true what you're saying, and probably what the others might be thinking as well, is you've heard lots of different things, but do you remember all those tidbits? If somebody could just summarize the whole workshop, everything you've heard, into like the key list. Don't forget to do this, do that, and don't do that. I think that would be, and this is the process that you follow, I think would be super useful. Melanie?
Yeah, that sounds like a 10 rules for cohort harmonization type of paper. But I think
is there not one already? There probably actually.
There may be.
No, I don't think there is.
I think Catherine looked at the time actually.
This could be a white paper output of this workshop. But the point I wanted to mention was with respect to the explosions of models. And I think the model and harmonize the model into. I'm sure somebody mentioned the XKCD with the there's 14 standards, and then we're doing the standards to align the standards, and now there's 15 standards. I think it's part of the human nature, and that's why I kind of like what Leslie was presenting about, trying to collate all the information and trying to see what the commonalities are. But I think, I don't think we'll ever have one model to rule them all. And that's why I'm thinking the mapping, capturing the mapping that are built, the provenance info, was that mapping manually reviewed? Was that automatically inferred just by text mining, just so that you get a level of confidence as well? I think that's where we're going. I don't think there's ever going to be I don't think we'll ever all agree on one model. You know, when you start your resource, you're like, okay, this is a small project. I'm just going to do it quickly. And you're like, hey, this is actually working quite well, and it expands, but you're still stuck with. So yeah, I think the sea of models is here to stay.
Yeah, I mean, we find the same, that not one model doesn't fit everything, and everyone wants a bit of customization for their purposes. And then, of course, there's the harmonization of the metadata, but then there's also the harmonization of the actual values. You know, so I think there are a lot of components. So, you know, having a group that might focus on not trying to harmonize the standards, but just making sense of them, say which ones are best for which applications, that might be useful. And then also providing tools. So, okay, here's a set of algorithms. So like some of the tools that were discussed in this workshop, here's a set of algorithms for cleaning data. Here's a set of algorithms for you know, mapping onto a model once you've decided on which one. So I think that might even, you know, at least those sort of things would help the community. So I'd like to hear from, I think we had a couple of people from some Latin American cohorts. I don't know if you want to share your experiences. It's still on. No? Anybody from the African cohorts? We've heard quite a bit from the African cohorts. Okay, seems everybody's just tired or shy. Last chance. Okay, no takers. So thank you again to all the speakers who spoke over the last 2 days, shared their experiences. Even, you know, those of us who've heard some of these talks before also learned a lot out of these and got some really interesting points out of them. We hope that you enjoyed the course. We hope that it met some of your expectations, knowing that it was just an introductory course. If you wanted to do, as I mentioned already, if you wanted to do some of the practicals, they are all available on that Google, in the Google folder. And all the slides will be put into that folder as well, so that you'll have access to all of those. We have done recordings, and so the recordings of the talks will also put into a single place. We have checked with the speakers that they're happy to share those. And so if you missed anything, you're welcome to come back. If you do some of the practicals and you have some questions, please feel free to reach out to Milana and I, and we can put you in touch with the relevant trainer. And we will also send out an evaluation form just to get some feedback from you. And that's particularly going to be interesting for us to know what you want next. So if you want to have some sort of follow on, whether that be a workshop, a bring your own data jamboree, or simply a community that talks and builds some standards and white papers and best practices and just useful stuff. So we look forward to getting your feedback for that.